The Galactic Interspecies Academy for Advanced Studies floated in the neutral zone between three major star systems. It was massive, larger than most cities, with gleaming silver towers that stretched toward the darkness of space. Students from 200 different species walked its halls, studied in its libraries, and lived in its dormitories. The Academy had been built 300 years ago as a place where young beings from across the galaxy could learn together, share knowledge, and build bridges between their worlds. Instructor Veltrax stood at the front of the main assembly hall, her crystalline body catching the light from the viewing windows. She was old by her species standards, having taught at the Academy for nearly 60 years. Her voice resonated through the hall, a sound like wind chimes that the translation devices converted into hundreds of different languages for the gathered students. "We have an important announcement regarding student welfare," Veltrax said, her facets glinting as she moved. "The Council has approved a new policy. Students who are enrolled in long-term programs may now bring emotional support animals to campus." A murmur of excitement rippled through the crowd. There were students who had been away from their home worlds for years, some who would not return until they completed their advanced degrees. The idea of having a piece of home with them brought visible joy to many faces, tentacles and other various appendages. "However," Veltrax continued, raising one of her crystalline limbs for silence, "there are strict requirements. All companion animals must be registered with the Xenobiology Safety Committee. They must be small enough to be easily contained. Most importantly, they must be completely harmless. No venoms, no aggressive tendencies, no capacity to cause injury to other students or staff." She projected a holographic document into the air above the assembly. The rules were clear and detailed. Each pet would need to pass an inspection. They would be categorized by threat level. Only those rated as threat level 0 would be permitted on campus grounds. "We want everyone to feel safe and comfortable," Veltrax explained. "The diversity of life in our galaxy is beautiful, but we must be cautious. What is harmless to one species might be deadly to another. All approved animals will wear monitoring collars and must remain with their assigned student at all times." The students left the assembly buzzing with excitement. Within a week, the first companion animals began arriving. Zara, a Dreknari student with blue scales and golden eyes, was among the first to bring her pet to campus. She carried a small container to the xenobiology lab, where 3 professors waited to conduct the inspection. When she opened it, a tiny creature no bigger than her palm crawled out. It had 6 legs and a round body covered in soft purple fur. 2 small antennae waved gently from its head. "This is Pip," Zara said proudly. "He eats flower petals and sleeps most of the day. He comes from the garden valleys on my home world." The professors examined Pip carefully. They scanned him with various instruments, checked his biological structure, and reviewed the data from Dreknari wildlife databases. After 20 minutes, they stamped Zara's approval form. "Threat level 0, one professor announced. "Your companion is approved." Zara left with Pip sitting on her shoulder, his antennae bouncing happily as she walked. More students followed. A Xanthari student named Kix brought a small blob of translucent gel that emitted a gentle humming sound. The professors learned it was a colonial organism, thousands of microscopic creatures living together, feeding on ambient radiation and producing calming frequencies that helped Kix sleep. It passed inspection easily. 3 students from the oceanic world of Thalassa brought small floating creatures that looked like jellyfish but glowed in different colors. They drifted through the air rather than water, feeding on atmospheric particles. The professors approved all 3 after confirming they had no stinging cells and no way to harm anyone. A Quillan student arrived with what looked like a ball of orange moss. It grew slowly, made a sound like purring when touched, and apparently helped regulate the room temperature in whatever space it occupied. The professors found it fascinating and harmless in equal measure. Day after day, students brought their companions. There were tiny gliding creatures with wings like paper. There were small burrowing animals that ate dirt and minerals. There were even some that existed partially in different dimensional phases, visible only as shimmering outlines. Each one was examined, tested, and categorized. The Academy administrators were pleased with how smoothly the new policy was being implemented. In 2 weeks, they had approved 47 different companion animals. Not a single one had been rejected. Every species in the galaxy, it seemed, had some small, gentle creature that could provide comfort without causing concern. Instructor Veltrax reviewed the reports in her office. She looked at images of students sitting in common areas with their pets. The Dreknari girl had her petal eater curled up in her lap while she studied. The Zenthari student kept his humming gel colony on his desk, where it glowed softly during late-night study sessions. 3 Quillan students had formed a study group. Their various small companions gathered together in the center of their table like a tiny menagerie of harmless life. "This is good for them," Veltrax said to her assistant, a young Morellian with green skin and 4 arms. "They are far from home under great stress from their studies. Having these small pieces of their worlds here helps them feel grounded." Her assistant nodded in agreement. "The psychological benefits are already showing in the data. Student satisfaction scores have increased by 12%. Reports of homesickness have dropped significantly." Veltrax felt satisfied. The council had made the right decision. She had initially been skeptical about allowing animals on campus, worried about allergic reactions or incompatible biologies, but the Xenobiology Committee had done excellent work. Their screening process was thorough. Every approved companion was gentle, small, and incapable of causing harm. She looked at the list of pending applications. There were still more students waiting to bring their pets to campus. Most were straightforward cases, similar to those already approved. But one name caught her attention: Jake Morrison, human, species, Homo sapiens, homeworld Earth. Veltrax felt a small vibration of curiosity run through her crystalline structure. Humans were rare at the Academy. They had only recently joined the galactic community, and most were still busy with their own systems development. In her 60 years of teaching, she had encountered perhaps a dozen human students. They were always interesting, often surprising, and frequently unpredictable. The application said Jake Morrison would be arriving in 3 weeks. It noted that he was bringing 2 companion animals from Earth. The species was listed as Canis lupus familiaris. The entry included a note that these were young specimens, not yet fully grown. Veltrax pulled up Earth's database entry, curious about what kind of pet a human would bring. The file was still being compiled. Earth had thousands of species, and the xenobiology databases were still cataloging them all. She found a basic entry for Canis lupus familiaris. The translation program gave her the common Earth name, domestic dog. There was an image attached. Veltrax looked at it and felt herself relax. The creature in the picture was small and covered in fur. It had large eyes and a tongue hanging out of its mouth in what the database said was a friendly expression. It looked harmless, even cute by most species standards. She approved the preliminary application and moved on to the next file. In 3 weeks, the human would arrive with his small, harmless companions. The Xenobiology Committee would do their inspection, and everything would proceed as it had with all the other students. Veltrax had no reason to think otherwise. The system was working perfectly. Every pet so far had been gentle and safe. She expected the humans' animals would be no different. She had no idea how wrong that assumption would be. The transport shuttle docked at the Academy's main port 3 weeks later, right on schedule. Among the 30 new students who disembarked was Jake Morrison, easily identifiable by his species' distinctive build. He was tall by human standards, with brown hair and an easy smile that seemed to be his default expression. He wore casual Earth clothing and carried a large travel crate with both hands. Several alien students waiting in the arrival area noticed the crate immediately. It was bigger than most of the pet carriers they had seen, roughly the size of a small trunk. Warning symbols covered its sides, though to the aliens they seemed excessive. There were images indicating live animals, instructions about temperature control, and notices about keeping the crate stable during transport. Jake set the crate down carefully and looked around the arrival area with obvious excitement. This was his first time off Earth, his first time in a truly multi-species environment. His eyes went wide as he took in the variety of beings around him. Students with scales, fur, crystalline bodies, and forms that defied easy description moved through the port. It was everything he had dreamed about when he applied to the Academy. A Quillan student approached him. Quillan were roughly humanoid in shape, but with 4 arms and skin that changed color based on their emotions. This one was currently a pleasant blue-green shade, indicating friendliness and curiosity. "You must be the new human student," the Quillan said, his translation device converting his native clicks into English. "I am Zixpor. I will be your roommate in the dormitory. Jake's smile grew wider. Great to meet you. I'm Jake, this is going to be amazing. Zixpor's skin flickered to a brighter shade of green. I am excited as well. I have never lived with a human before. Are you hungry? The dining hall has prepared Earth-compatible food for you. That sounds good, but first I need to check in these two, Jake said, patting the crate gently. Zixpor's skin flashed yellow with curiosity. Ah, yes, your companion animals. What species are they? Dogs, Jake said simply. Puppies, actually. They're just 3 months old. I look forward to meeting them, Zixpor said. My dormitory neighbor has a small gliding creature from her homeworld. It makes pleasant chirping sounds. Many students have brought companions. It has made the living areas much more cheerful. They made their way to the xenobiology lab. Jake carried the crate while Zixpor walked beside him, pointing out various locations around the campus. The lab was busy when they arrived. 2 other students were there having their pets inspected, and 3 professors were working at different stations. Professor Veltrax was there personally, reviewing data on a holographic screen. When she saw Jake enter with his crate, she turned her attention to him. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved. Jake Morrison, I presume, she said. Welcome to the Academy. I understand you have brought companion animals from Earth. Yes, ma'am, Jake said, setting the crate on the examination table. Their names are Luna and Max. I brought all their medical records from Earth. They have all their vaccinations and health certificates. He pulled a data chip from his pocket and handed it to Veltrax. She inserted it into the scanning system and began reviewing the information. The medical records were thorough, showing the animals had been checked by Earth veterinarians and cleared for space travel. The records appear to be in order, Veltrax said. Now we need to see the animals themselves for our standard safety evaluation. Jake nodded and moved to the crate. He pressed the release buttons on the sides. They might be a little nervous. It was a long trip and they have never seen aliens before. Well, you're aliens to them, I guess. He laughed at his own words. He opened the top of the crate carefully. For a moment, nothing happened. Then 2 small shapes bounded out with surprising energy. The professors and students in the lab went silent, watching the creatures that tumbled onto the examination table. They were covered in fur, one with a golden coat and the other with black and white markings. They had 4 legs, a tail on each that was wagging rapidly back and forth, and faces with large dark eyes and small black noses. Their ears were floppy and too big for their heads. Their paws seemed oversized for their bodies. Luna, the golden one, immediately tried to lick Jake's hand. Max, the black and white one, was more interested in exploring the table, sniffing everything with intense curiosity. Both made small whining sounds that might have been expressions of excitement or confusion. Oh, breathed Zixpor, his skin turning bright pink with delight. They are so small. Jake laughed and scooped both puppies into his arms. They wriggled with joy, trying to lick his face. Yeah, they're still babies. They will get bigger, but not for a while. Other students in the lab had gathered around to see. A Draknari student reached out tentatively to touch Luna's fur. The puppy responded by trying to lick her scaled hand, her tail wagging even faster. The texture is so soft, the Draknari student said with wonder. And they are very warm. Dogs are warm-blooded, Jake explained. They like to cuddle and be close to their pack. That's what they consider their family to be. A pack. Professor Veltrax moved closer, her instruments scanning the puppies. They certainly appear harmless. Quite friendly, actually. Jake set the puppies back on the table so the professors could examine them properly. Luna sat down and scratched behind her ear with one hind leg. Max found a loose piece of fabric on Jake's bag and grabbed it in his mouth, shaking his head back and forth in a play motion. The professors scanned them with various instruments. They checked the puppies' biological structure, their body temperature, their metabolism. They reviewed the medical records Jake had provided, which included detailed information about the species' normal behavior patterns, dietary needs, and growth expectations. What do they eat? One of the professors asked. Meat mostly, Jake said, but they can eat vegetables and grains too. I brought enough food for them for the semester. It's all processed and packaged, nothing that would be a biohazard. The professors consulted with each other in low voices. Meanwhile, more students had gathered around the table. Luna and Max were surrounded by beings from a dozen different species, all wanting to touch the soft fur and see the small creatures up close. Max rolled onto his back, showing his belly. A Zenthari student, encouraged by Jake, carefully rubbed the puppy's stomach. Max's back leg kicked in the air reflexively, making the Zenthari jump back in surprise before realizing it was harmless. He likes belly rubs, Jake explained with a grin. It's one of his favorite things. Luna, meanwhile, had discovered that if she put her paws up on the edge of the table and looked at people with her big eyes, they would give her more attention. She was working this strategy on Zixpor, who seemed completely charmed. "Can I hold one?" Zixpor asked. "Sure," Jake said. He picked up Luna and carefully handed her to the Quillen. "Support her back end. There you go." Zixpor held the puppy in his forearms, his skin cycling through several colors that indicated pure joy. Luna seemed content, settling into the hold and looking around at this strange new being that was holding her. After 30 minutes of examination and observation, the professors gathered their data. They reviewed everything they had scanned, checked it against the medical records, and consulted their safety protocols. Professor Veltrax turned to Jake. "The animals appear to be healthy and friendly. They show no aggressive behavior. Their size is small enough to be easily managed. According to Earth's classification, they are domesticated animals with thousands of generations of selective breeding for companionship traits." "That's right," Jake confirmed. "Dogs have lived with humans for at least 15,000 years. They're completely safe around people. Well, safe around humans, I mean. I guess you're all people too." Veltrax's crystalline body chimed in what might have been amusement. "We understand what you mean. Based on our examination and the provided documentation, I am approving Luna and Max for residence on campus. They are classified as threat level 0. They will need monitoring collars like all approved companion animals, but I see no reason to deny your application." Jake's face lit up. "That's great. Thank you. However," Veltrax added, "you are responsible for their behavior at all times. If they show any signs of aggression or cause any problems, we will need to review this approval." "They won't be any trouble," Jake assured her. "I promise." He attached the small monitoring collars the professors provided. They were lightweight bands that would track the puppy's location and vital signs. Then he scooped both dogs back into his arms. Zixpor walked with Jake back to their dormitory, practically bouncing with excitement. His skin was still bright pink. "I cannot believe we will have Earth dogs living with us. They are wonderful. So much energy and friendliness." "Yeah, they're great," Jake agreed. "You're going to love having them around. They're good company, especially when you're studying late at night. They'll just curl up next to you and sleep." As they walked through the campus, other students stopped to look at the puppies. Word was already spreading about the human and his unusual companions. By the time they reached the dormitory, a small crowd had followed them, all wanting to meet Luna and Max. Jake spent the next hour introducing his dogs to what felt like half the student body. The puppies handled it all with enthusiasm, seeming to. Kira had always been curious by nature. It was what made her a good student in the xenobiology program. The Draknari spent most of her free time in the Academy's vast digital library, reading about different species and their homeworlds. When she met the humans' companion animals, her curiosity was immediately triggered. 3 days after Jake arrived on campus, Kira sat in her dormitory room with her datapad, pulling up everything she could find about Earth. The planet was still relatively new to galactic records. Most of the database entries were incomplete, compiled from the initial contact surveys and whatever information Earth's governments had provided to the Galactic Council. She started with general information. Earth was a water-covered planet with diverse climates and ecosystems. It had given rise to millions of species over billions of years. Humans were the dominant, intelligent species, but they shared their world with an incredible variety of life forms. Kira searched specifically for Canis lupus familiaris. The entry was brief but included links to related species. She clicked on one of those links, following the biological classification tree. It led her to Canis lupus, which the database translated as gray wolf. Her golden eyes widened as she read the description. She sat completely still, a behavior her species exhibited when shocked or frightened. Her scales, usually a bright blue, began to darken to a deep navy color. Wolves were pack hunters. They were carnivores. They killed prey by using coordinated group tactics, stamina hunting that could last for hours, and powerful jaws that delivered bone-crushing bites. An adult wolf could run at high speeds for extended periods, track prey across vast distances using scent, and take down animals much larger than itself when working with its pack. The entry included videos. Kira watched with growing horror as a pack of 6 wolves pursued a large herbivore across a snowy landscape. The wolves took turns chasing the animal, forcing it to run until it was exhausted. Then they attacked as a group, bringing it down with brutal efficiency. The bite force measurements in the database showed that a wolf's jaw could exert over 400 pounds of pressure per square inch. Kira's hands trembled as she navigated back to the entry for domestic dogs. She read more carefully this time. Dogs were descended from wolves. Humans had domesticated them, but the biological relationship was clear. The database even noted that dogs and wolves could interbreed, producing fertile offspring. She pulled up images of adult dogs of various breeds. Some were small, not much bigger than the puppies Jake had brought. But others were massive. There were dogs that weighed as much as she did. Dogs bred for guarding, for hunting, for fighting. The database showed pictures of dogs with massive heads and powerful jaws. Dogs with thick muscles and intense eyes. Luna and Max were puppies. They would grow. How large would they become? Kira searched for more information about their specific breed. The database said they were mixed breed dogs, which meant they could have genetic traits from multiple types. The growth chart showed they could reach anywhere from 40 to 70 pounds when fully grown, 70 pounds of predator. Living in the dormitory, playing with students who had no idea what they were, Kira stood up so fast she knocked over her chair. She grabbed her datapad and ran out of her room. She had to tell someone. The xenobiology department needed to know what they had approved. She found Professor Veltrax in her office, reviewing student papers. Kira burst in without knocking, her scales now almost black with agitation. "Professor, we have a serious problem," Kira said, her words tumbling out quickly. "The humans' companion animals. I have been researching them. They are not what we thought." Veltrax turned her attention to the student. "Explain yourself, Kira. What have you discovered?" Kira held out her datapad with shaking hands. "Dogs are descended from apex predators called wolves. They are hunters, pack hunters. The puppies we approved will grow into large carnivores with jaws that can crush bone. We let them onto campus without understanding what they are." Veltrax took the datapad and began reading. Her crystalline body went very still, much like Kira had earlier. She scrolled through the information, watched the videos, reviewed the biological data. With each passing minute, her concern grew. "Call an emergency meeting," Veltrax said quietly. "Get all the members of the Xenobiology Safety Committee. We need to review this immediately." Within 2 hours, 5 professors sat in a conference room, reviewing everything the Academy's database had on Earth's canines. They watched videos of wolves hunting. They studied the anatomy of dog skulls, noting the teeth designed for tearing meat. They reviewed bite force data, predatory behavior patterns, and hunting strategies. Professor Ixtal, a Morellian who specialized in dangerous fauna, was particularly troubled. "These animals are persistence hunters," he said, his green skin darker than usual. "Their ancestors ran prey to exhaustion over distances of 20 miles or more. They have incredible stamina and determination. The jaw structure is designed for killing," added Professor Chin, whose species came from a peaceful herbivore background. "Look at the canine teeth. Those are weapons. Every dog has them, even the small breeds." They pulled up more information about wolves and dogs. They found accounts of wolf attacks on other species, including humans. They found information about dog breeds specifically designed for combat and guarding. There were dogs that had been used in wars, dogs trained to attack on command, dogs that could bite with enough force to break bones. "But they have been domesticated," Veltrax pointed out, trying to find some reassurance. "The database says humans have bred them for thousands of years to be companions. Domestication does not remove their fundamental nature," Ixtal argued. "It modifies behavior through selective breeding, but the capacity for violence remains. A domestic animal is still the same species as its wild ancestors. Dogs are still wolves, just wolves that tolerate living with humans." The committee pulled up more disturbing information. Dogs killed smaller animals regularly. It was called prey drive, and many dogs never lost it despite domestication. There were statistics about dog attacks on humans themselves. Thousands of incidents each year on Earth alone. Some attacks resulted in serious injuries or even death. "How did we miss this?" Chin asked, sounding shaken. How did we approve apex predators for campus residents? We looked at puppies, Veltrax said quietly. Young specimens. They appeared harmless because they are not yet fully grown. We made our assessment based on their current state, not their potential. The committee sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their mistake settling over them. What else do humans keep as companions? Ixtal asked suddenly. If they domesticated pack-hunting predators, what else from their world might they consider a pet? They searched the database for more information. What they found made their concern grow exponentially. Humans also kept felines as companion animals. Cats, as they were called, were descended from ambush predators, solitary hunters with retractable claws, incredible reflexes, and night hunting adaptations. The database showed videos of big cats, the wild relatives of domestic cats, taking down prey with silent stalking and explosive violence. There were humans who kept reptiles, including snakes that could constrict prey or deliver venomous bites. Some humans kept birds of prey trained to hunt. There were even records of humans keeping insects, arachnids, and other creatures that most species would consider dangerous or disturbing. This is insane, Chin said, his voice barely a whisper. Earth is a death world. Everything there is trying to kill everything else. And humans not only survived, they made friends with the predators. The committee reviewed attack statistics for various Earth animals that humans kept as pets. Dogs accounted for thousands of injuries each year. Cats, despite being smaller, injured hundreds of thousands of people annually with their claws and teeth. Even pet birds could cause serious harm with their beaks. Yet humans lived with these animals, shared their homes with them, let them near their children. The statistics showed that tens of millions of humans owned dogs. The numbers for cats were similar. These were not rare occurrences of unusually bold individuals keeping dangerous pets. This was normal for their species. We need to consider the implications, Veltrax said slowly. If humans routinely live with apex predators and see nothing unusual about it, what does that tell us about humans themselves? The question hung in the air. The professors looked at each other, realizing they were asking something they should have investigated before humans were ever admitted to the academy. Ixtal pulled up the biological data on humans. He had never looked closely at it before. Humans were classified as omnivores, but the data showed they were persistence hunters like the wolves they had domesticated. Humans had extraordinary endurance, the ability to track prey over long distances, and a hunting strategy based on literally running their prey to death over the course of hours or even days. Humans had binocular vision like predators. They had nails that were evolutionary remnants of claws. Their teeth included canines designed for tearing meat. They could consume and digest raw flesh if necessary. Their bodies were built for throwing projectiles with deadly accuracy, a hunting adaptation almost unique among Earth species. Humans are predators, Ixtal said with dawning realization, not just omnivores who occasionally eat meat. They are pursuit predators. They are pack hunters. They are apex predators. Jake arrived at the conference room with Luna and Max trotting beside him on leashes. He had expected this confrontation eventually. Someone was bound to look up what dogs really were in panic. He had just hoped it would take longer than 3 days. Sixbore had insisted on coming with him for moral support. His skin was a worried yellow-green color as they walked through the administrative building. They will not make you get rid of them, will they? The Quillen asked quietly. I hope not, Jake said. But I guess we'll find out. The conference room was large and formal. 5 professors sat on one side of a long table. Jake recognized Veltrax and the other professors who had approved Luna and Max during the initial inspection. Their expressions ranged from concerned to visibly afraid. Several other students who had met the puppies were also present, apparently called as witnesses. Jake took a seat across from the committee. He let Luna and Max off their leashes. The puppies immediately began exploring the room, sniffing at chair legs and the corners of the furniture. Luna found a spot of sunlight from the window and lay down in it. Max discovered that his tail was interesting and began chasing it in circles. Professor Veltrax spoke first. Jake Morrison, thank you for coming. We have called this emergency hearing to discuss your companion animals. After conducting additional research, we have discovered concerning information about their species. Let me guess, Jake said with a slight smile. You found out that dogs are descended from wolves. You knew this information and did not disclose it? Professor Ixtal demanded. His green skin had darkened to almost gray. I didn't think I needed to disclose it, Jake said calmly. Your application form asked about the species, their health status, and their behavior. Dogs are dogs. They have been domesticated for 15,000 years. The fact that their wild ancestors were wolves is not relevant to Luna and Max being safe companions. Veltrax projected a holographic image into the air above the table. It showed a pack of wolves taking down a large animal. The violence was stark and brutal. Several of the alien students in the room made sounds of distress. This is what your animals are descended from, Veltrax said. Apex predators. Pack hunters that kill prey much larger than themselves. They have bite forces that can crush bone. They are persistence hunters with incredible stamina and determination. Jake watched the video calmly. Yes, that's what wolves do. They hunt, they're carnivores. But Luna and Max are not wolves. They're domestic dogs. The biological difference is minimal, Ixtal argued. Dogs and wolves can interbreed. They are the same species, just different subspecies. Your animals have the same predatory instincts, the same physical capabilities. Jake leaned back in his chair. Okay, I can see why you're worried. But you're missing something important. Dogs are not just wolves that live with humans. They're different in fundamental ways. Let me ask you something. What does domestication mean to your species? Professor Chin spoke up. Domestication is the process of breeding animals to be more docile and easier to manage. We select for gentler traits and breed out aggressive tendencies. That's part of it, Jake agreed. But with dogs, it went much deeper than that. Humans and wolves formed a partnership tens of thousands of years ago. We did not just make wolves tamer. We changed them at a genetic level. We bred them to understand us, to communicate with us, to want to be with us. He looked down at Luna, who had gotten up from her sunny spot and was now sitting at his feet, looking up at him with adoring eyes. Dogs are the only animals that naturally follow human pointing gestures. If I point at something, Luna will look where I'm pointing. Wolves don't do that. Even hand-raised wolves don't understand pointing the way dogs do. It's an ability that evolved specifically for communicating with humans. Jake demonstrated, pointing at a corner of the room. Luna immediately looked where he was pointing. Her ears perked up with attention. Dogs look at human faces to read our emotions, Jake continued. They can tell the difference between happy and angry expressions. They respond to our body language. They have evolved to be our partners, not our predators. But they still have the capacity for violence, Ixtal insisted. The statistics from Earth show thousands of dog attacks each year. Your own species is injured by these animals regularly. That's true, Jake admitted. Dogs can bite. They can cause harm. But context matters. Most dog bites happen because of poor training, abuse, or situations where the dog feels threatened. A properly raised and socialized dog is incredibly safe. Veltrax leaned forward. But how can you guarantee that? How can you control predatory instincts that are bred into their biology? Jake stood up. Let me show you something. Max, come here. The black and white puppy bounded over to Jake, tail wagging. Jake pulled a small treat from his pocket. Max, sit. Max's rear end hit the floor immediately. He looked up at Jake with complete focus, waiting for the next command. Down. Max dropped to his belly, still watching Jake intently. Stay. Jake walked several feet away, then turned back. Max remained in position, every muscle tense with the effort of staying still when he clearly wanted to follow. After a few seconds, Jake said, Okay, come. Max launched himself toward Jake, who caught the puppy and gave him the treat along with lots of praise and ear scratches. This is bite inhibition training, Jake explained, calling Luna over as well. Watch this. He put his hand near Luna's mouth. The puppy gently took his fingers in her mouth, applying no pressure. Her tail wagged slowly. Gentle, Jake said. Good girl, gentle. Luna released his hand without even leaving a mark. Jake offered his hand to Veltrax. You try. The crystalline professor hesitated, then extended one of her limbs. Jake guided Luna's head toward it. Gentle, Luna. Luna took the crystalline limb in her mouth as carefully as she had taken Jake's hand. She held it for a moment, then released it when Jake said, Release. Dogs learn bite inhibition as puppies, Jake explained. They play with their litter mates and learn how hard they can bite before it hurts. We reinforce this training. I can put my hand in Luna's mouth and she will not bite down. She knows the word gentle means to be very careful. He looked around the room at the assembled professors and students. Yes, dogs are descended from predators. Yes, they have strong jaws and sharp teeth. But they have also been bred for 15,000 years to live with humans, to obey humans, to protect humans. The instinct to please their pack leader, their human, is stronger than any hunting instinct. But what if something goes wrong? Chin asked. What if they see a smaller student as prey? What if they revert to their predatory nature? Jake shook his head. That's not how it works. Dogs do not see their pack members as prey. Ever. You become part of their pack when they accept you. Watch this, he gestured to Zixpor. Come here, Zix, Luna Max, this is Zix, he's pack. Jake guided Zixpor's hands to pet both puppies. He showed him how to scratch behind their ears, how to rub their bellies. The puppies responded with obvious joy, their tails wagging furiously. They have known Zix for 3 days, Jake said. He's already part of their pack. They will protect him. They will never hurt him. If someone tried to attack Zix, Luna and Max would defend him. He turned to Kira, the Draknari student who had discovered the truth about dogs. You can pet them too. They remember you from the other day. Kira approached slowly, her scales still dark with nervousness. Luna walked up to her and sat down, offering her paw in the gesture Jake had taught her. It was a trick, a simple behavior, but it broke the tension. Kira took the offered paw carefully, and Luna's tail wagged. She is asking to be friends, Jake said with a smile. That's what paw shaking means to dogs. It is a greeting, a sign of trust. More students came forward, encouraged by Kira's example. They petted the puppies, watched them play, interacted with them. The puppies responded to each person with friendliness and enthusiasm. There was no aggression, no predatory behavior. Just 2 young dogs enjoying attention from new friends. I understand your concern, Jake said to the committee. I really do. From your perspective, you approved predators without knowing it. But from my perspective, I brought my family. Dogs are not just pets to humans. They are companions, partners, friends. We trust them with our children. We trust them with our lives. He picked up Luna and held her in his arms. She licked his face, making him laugh. This is a relationship built over thousands of generations. My ancestors hunted alongside their ancestors. We evolved together in some ways. The bond between humans and dogs is one of the oldest partnerships in human history. But they will grow larger, Ixtal pointed out. The data shows they could reach 70 pounds or more. That is significant mass for a predator. Yes, they will grow, Jake agreed. And when they are full grown, they will still obey me. They will still be gentle with people. They will still be the same dogs they are now, just bigger. Size does not change their nature. Professor Veltrax was silent for a long moment, her crystalline body chiming softly as she thought. You mentioned that dogs would protect members of their pack. That implies they can be aggressive when needed. Protective, yes, Jake said. If someone tried to hurt me or someone they consider pack, they would defend us. But that's controlled, agree. The news about Luna and Max spread through the Galactic Interspecies Academy like a wave. Within days, every student knew that the humans' companions were descended from apex predators. The revelation sparked fascination rather than fear. Students who had already met the puppies vouched for their friendly nature. Those who had not yet met them were curious and eager to see these unusual creatures for themselves. Jake found himself the center of attention wherever he went. Students stopped him in hallways to ask questions about dogs, about Earth, about humans. He answered patiently, enjoying the chance to teach others about his home world. In his xenobiology class, Professor Ixtal asked Jake to give a presentation about domestication on Earth. Jake stood at the front of the lecture hall with Luna and Max sitting beside him. The room was packed with students from dozens of species, all wanting to learn more. Domestication on Earth is different than on most worlds, Jake began. We did not just tame animals that were already docile. We formed partnerships with species that could have been our competitors. Dogs are the most famous example, but there are others. He pulled up images on the holographic display. These are horses. They are large prey animals, fast and powerful. Wild horses can kill with their kicks, but humans domesticated them thousands of years ago. We ride them, work with them, compete alongside them. They are strong enough to hurt us, but they choose not to when trained properly. The next image showed a cat lounging in a sunny window. These are cats, solitary ambush predators. They have claws that can slice skin and reflexes faster than humans can react. But millions of humans keep them in their homes. Cats are independent and sometimes difficult, but we love them anyway. A Zenthari student raised a tentacle to ask a question. Why would humans want to live with predators? It seems dangerous, Jake smiled. Because humans are predators too. We understand predators. We think like they do. When we see an animal that is strong, fast, or dangerous, we do not think it should be avoided. We think about how we could work together with it. He scratched Max behind the ears. The puppy leaned into the touch, his tail wagging. The partnership between humans and dogs is special. We helped each other survive. Dogs helped humans hunt, and humans shared their food with dogs. We protected each other. Over thousands of years, we became family to each other. Another student asked, but what about the danger? Your own data shows that dogs can hurt people. Any animal can hurt people if treated badly or put in bad situations, Jake said. Humans can hurt people too. What matters is the relationship, the training, and the trust. Yes, a dog has the physical ability to bite, but a properly raised dog will not bite without serious cause. The instinct to protect and please their human pack is stronger than any aggressive instinct. Over the following weeks, Luna and Max became campus celebrities. Students who had been nervous about them at first began to seek them out. The puppies were always friendly, always eager for attention. They attended classes with Jake, sitting quietly by his desk or sleeping at his feet during long lectures. Zixpor had become particularly attached to both puppies. His dormitory room was now covered with pictures of Luna and Max. He had learned all the commands Jake had taught them and spent hours playing with the puppies. His skin was almost always bright, happy colors when he was around them. I never understood what humans meant by having a pet before, Zixpor told Jake one evening. They were in the common area, watching the puppies play with a group of alien students. On my world, we have small creatures we keep for their beauty or the sounds they make. But this is different. Luna and Max are not just things we keep. They are friends. Exactly, Jake said. That's what makes dogs special. They are not just pets. They are companions. They care about us and we care about them. Kira, the Draknari student who had first discovered the truth about dogs, had become one of their biggest advocates. She wrote a research paper about human domestication practices that became required reading in the xenobiology program. Her conclusion was that humans had a unique approach to other species, one that valued partnership over domination. Most species domesticate prey animals, Kira presented to her class. We take herbivores and breed them to be more docile, easier to control. Humans did this too with cattle and sheep, but they also looked at predators and saw potential allies. They formed bonds with species that could have been dangerous to them. This tells us something important about human psychology. She pulled up images of wolves and dogs side by side. Humans are confident enough in their own abilities as hunters and survivors that they were not afraid to live with other predators. They saw an opportunity for cooperation rather than competition. This same trait makes humans bold explorers and risk-takers in space. The Academy staff continued to monitor Luna and Max closely for the first month. They documented every interaction, every behavior pattern, every command Jake gave them. The data was consistent. The puppies were friendly, obedient, and showed no signs of unpredictable aggression. When the monitoring period ended, Professor Veltrax officially removed all special restrictions on them. Your companions have proven to be safe, Veltrax told Jake in her office. More than that, they have been beneficial to campus life. I have received reports from the counseling center that several students who were struggling with homesickness have improved after spending time with Luna and Max. There is something comforting about them. Dogs are good for mental health, Jake said. On Earth, we use them as therapy animals in hospitals and schools. They help people feel less stressed and more connected. I guess that works across species. As Luna and Max grew, the alien students watched with fascination. Every week they were a little bigger, a little stronger. By the time they were 6 months old, they had tripled in size. Luna's golden coat was thick and beautiful. Max's black and white markings were striking. They were no longer tiny puppies, but young dogs approaching their adult size. Some students who had not been around during the initial controversy saw them for the first time at this larger size and were startled. But the dogs' behavior was the same as always. They greeted everyone with wagging tails and friendly enthusiasm. They obeyed Jake's commands instantly. They played gently with smaller students and matched the energy level of whoever they were interacting with. One incident in particular became famous around campus. A young Quillan student, barely more than a child by her species standards, had gotten lost in one of the larger academic buildings. She was crying in a corner, overwhelmed and scared. Max found her during his evening walk with Jake. The dog approached the young Quillen carefully and lay down next to her, resting his head on her lap. He stayed with her, calm and comforting, until Jake arrived and helped her find her way back to her dormitory. The story spread quickly. Students began to understand what Jake meant when he said dogs were protectors. They saw that Luna and Max had a sense of who needed help, who was upset, who needed comfort. It was not just obedience to commands. The dogs seemed to genuinely care about the people around them. A group of students from prey species, who had been understandably nervous about the dogs, decided to do an experiment. They asked Jake if they could spend time with Luna and Max without him present, to see how the dogs would behave. Jake agreed, confident in his dogs. The students took Luna and Max to a study room. They closed the door and sat on the floor, nervous and alert. The dogs explored the room first, sniffing everything. Then they approached the students one by one. Luna put her head in a Zinthari student's lap. Max brought his rope toy to a Draknari and dropped it at her feet, inviting her to play. Within minutes, the students were relaxed and laughing as they interacted with the dogs. When Jake returned an hour later, he found the dogs asleep in the middle of a pile of alien students who had decided this was the best study session ever. They did not show any aggression at all, one of the students reported. Max kept bringing us his toys to throw. Luna kept trying to get belly rubs. They were perfect, Jake grinned. I told you, dogs are good friends. The perspective shift was not limited to students. Faculty members who had been skeptical began to appreciate the unique relationship between humans and their domesticated animals. Professor Ixtal, who had been one of the most vocal critics during the emergency hearing, became a regular visitor to Jake's dorm room. He spent hours observing Luna and Max, taking notes, asking questions about their behavior and training. I am writing a paper about interspecies partnerships, Ixtal explained one day. Your dogs have challenged everything I thought I knew about domestication. On my world, we bred small herbivores to be more docile. The concept of forming a bond with a predator never occurred to us. But seeing it in practice, I understand the advantages. Your dogs are protective without being aggressive, loyal without being possessive, strong without being dangerous. It is remarkable. Jake appreciated the academic interest, but for him, Luna and Max were not research subjects. They were family. Every morning they woke him up with licks to his face. Every night they slept curled up next to him. When he was stressed about exams, they seemed to know and stayed close, offering silent comfort. When he was happy, they matched his energy, playing and bouncing around with joy.